We're first introduced to Dr. Jeff, who is with his two children, Autumn and Leanne, heading out for a family excursion. But before they can begin, Jeff needs to make a quick stop at his workplace. Jeff is a scientist whose field of expertise lies in extraterrestrial research. Upon arriving at the lab, he and Autumn head inside, leaving Leanne waiting in the car inside. The lab is filled with cutting-edge technology and high-powered computers. Jeff begins searching for some documents, while Autumn, after returning from the bathroom, takes a seat near one of the monitors. While conversing with her father, she notices an unusual blip on the radar, a fast-moving object approaching Earth. She quickly alerts Jeff, suggesting it might be a piece of space debris entering the atmosphere. She also brings up her father's theory regarding Rubicon, though Jeff replies that it may not be related. Suddenly, alarms begin blaring from the central systems, signaling something far from ordinary. Realizing the severity of the situation, Jeff urgently contacts the president's secretary to report the unidentified object. She instructs him to reach out to President McCoy directly. The White House Secretary of Defense Louis debriefs President McCoy about the situation. An almost perfectly round object has penetrated Earth's atmosphere. The president wonders if it might be a failing satellite, but Louis confirms that both Russia and China have denied any involvement. When asked about its path, Louis reveals that the object is headed toward the East Coast, near New York. President McCoy wastes no time, ordering the National Guard to be placed on high alert and the Manhattan shelter to be readied. Determined to earn credit for saving the world, he tells Louis to contact Captain Shawn and ready the jets. Back with Jeff and his family, he informs Leanne that their day out will need to be postponed. As they prepare to leave, Jeff's car stalls momentarily but restarts, and they continue toward home. Meanwhile, President McCoy meets with Secretary Les to examine the strange sphere. Dr. Grace enters, stating that the arrival of such an object spells trouble. The president, unsure of what he's facing, decides to dispatch a team to investigate. Curious about who first detected the anomaly, he's told it was Dr. Jeff, a widowed father of two and a PhD holder in astrophysics, with a specialization in astrobiology. Dr. Grace explains that Jeff was also the first to identify the Rubicon anomaly, which emits radio signals as if attempting communication. She reminds the president that he met Jeff last year, prompting McCoy to ask if she was the one who dismissed his theory. She admits she was, stating the theory seemed far-fetched at the time. McCoy acknowledges that circumstances have changed, and perhaps Jeff was right all along. He orders her to get in touch with him immediately, and instructs Louis to mobilize military forces. Jeff and his kids arrive at their home. Leanne, clearly unsettled, brings up the strange object again, but Jeff brushes off the concern and urges them inside. Soon, a helicopter lands near their property, and Captain Shawn steps out to retrieve Jeff personally. Autumn, watching from the house, asks if his arrival is connected to the mysterious object. Jeff quickly tells her to go back inside. Shawn explains that President McCoy sent him directly and reveals that the unidentified object remains stationary in New York. Though Jeff initially refuses, citing that he's on vacation with his children, Shawn urges him to reconsider, emphasizing the seriousness of the discovery. Jeff expresses concern over their car and the kids' phones losing signal, suspecting the object might be causing it. Eventually, he agrees to the mission, but requests that a radio be left behind so he can stay in touch with Autumn and Leanne. Before departing, Jeff explains to his kids that he needs to travel to New York. Autumn insists on going with him, since he was the one who found the object, but Jeff asks him to remain and take care of his sister. Captain Shawn provides them with an old-fashioned radio and gives instructions on how to use it. Jeff embraces his children and promises to return in time for dinner. Meanwhile, the president is deep in a briefing. General Vargas reports that Dr. Jeff is en route with Captain Shawn. On the way, Shawn tells Jeff that his Rubicon theory might have been accurate after all, and that the president hopes he can establish communication with the anomaly. Autumn and Leanne manage to contact their father and let him know that the mysterious sphere is now dominating the news across all major channels. Jeff instructs them firmly not to leave the house, but their conversation is abruptly cut off by a strange interference in the signal. Captain Shawn then asks Jeff how familiar he is with drones. Jeff admits he has a basic understanding, prompting Shawn to inform him that they'll need to deploy several drones for reconnaissance. Jeff asks where the equipment is, and Shawn tells him there's a laptop in the back of the aircraft, while joking that Jeff looks like he's not entirely comfortable flying. Nonetheless, Jeff begins preparing the mission. Shawn soon radios the president to confirm that Dr. Jeff is ready to begin the operation using drones outfitted with infrared cameras. Jeff observes the sphere up close. He notes that there's no reaction. It doesn't appear to be a living organism, though it emits a particular kind of radiation. When the drones attempt to probe the interior of the sphere, it reacts instantly and obliterates them. President McCoy, determined to act, orders General Vargas to prepare for an all-out assault using every available weapon. Multiple military helicopters approach the sphere but are instantly destroyed. During the chaos, Jeff and Shawn's helicopter is struck and nearly brought down. Soon, Raptor jets are deployed to attack the sphere, but they too are ineffective. Shawn evades the danger and manages to re-establish communication with Lest, reporting that nearly half of their military forces have been wiped out. McCoy urges Shawn to hold position a bit longer, and Vargas reassures them that reinforcements are on their way. The sphere begins advancing toward the city, demolishing everything in its path. McCoy orders his team to continue tracking its movement, but from a safe distance. Jeff advises the president that the public deserves to know the truth. While Lest disagrees, McCoy insists it's time to inform the population. From the sky, Jeff observes with binoculars that many civilians have not yet evacuated. He spots two soldiers perilously close to the sphere and urges Shawn to rescue them, but the captain says it's too risky. Moments later, the soldiers are effortlessly eliminated. Shawn reminds Jeff to remain calm and focus on finding a way to neutralize the threat. General Vargas announces that 10 additional Raptor jets are on their way. Alarmed, Jeff pleads with Shawn to stop the attack, warning it could result in mass civilian casualties. Shawn agrees and warns Vargas that any bloodshed will be on his conscience. Vargas responds that the ultimate decision lies with the president. After a moment of hesitation, McCoy calls off the attack, and Vargas orders the fighters to turn back. As the sphere nears a power station, Jeff notices something unusual: its reaction to the energy around it. Realizing this could be a breakthrough, he quickly contacts his children via radio, instructing them to be ready to evacuate if necessary. He asks if their phones are working. Leanne replies that they are, and Jeff takes it as a promising sign. Jeff tells Shawn he wants to examine the sphere more closely to see the effects of the electrical surge. Though hesitant, the captain agrees. Just then, a civilian helicopter appears nearby. Before contact can be made, it is destroyed and crashes into their aircraft, causing them to go down shortly after. The White House, Lest reports that global leaders are requesting to speak with President McCoy, who steps away to take the calls. Jeff and Shawn survive the crash and encounter a lone soldier, who informs them that his entire unit has been wiped out. Shawn asks if he has any working communication device. When the soldier says no, Jeff remembers he left his radio inside the downed helicopter. As he attempts to retrieve it, the chopper explodes, and a shard fatally wounds the soldier. Shawn administers emergency aid and uses the man's phone to request backup. Later at the White House, Jeff and Shawn meet with General Vargas, who informs them that the president is momentarily unavailable. Lest greets them and warns that an even more powerful military strike is in the works. The plan is to intercept the sphere once it reaches the sea with a warship and Raptor fighters ready to engage. Vargas gives the order, and the ship launches a barrage of missiles. However, the attack fails in an unexpected way. The missiles veer off course, collide mid-air, or even hit their own vessel. Jeff speculates that the sphere is adapting in real time to every offensive tactic. They then review video footage from the destroyed civilian helicopter. Vargas presses Jeff to provide an explanation, but the scientist admits that he still doesn't fully understand what they're dealing with. Just then, President McCoy enters and declares that Dr. Jeff is now in charge. He reveals that several foreign governments have offered assistance and asks Lest to coordinate with international allies. Jeff hypothesizes that electricity might be the sphere's weakness. Dr. Grace agrees with his theory. Lest interrupts the meeting, saying that European scientists have proposed a new strategy: to hit the sphere with liquid nitrogen first, then strike it with missiles, hoping the thermal shock will compromise its structure. Jeff asks how the plan will be carried out, and Vargas confirms a military aircraft will execute the operation. Jeff expresses concern, warning that no one knows what might happen once the sphere's shell is broken. Lest insists that's exactly why they need to be present. Though initially reluctant, Jeff is eventually persuaded by Shawn to go along as observers. Meanwhile, the sphere continues its path of destruction through the city. Jeff and Shawn board a new helicopter. Jeff stresses that the next shot must succeed. If it fails, the sphere will likely retaliate and kill them. Shawn reassures him that they'll survive this together. Jeff questions why the sphere is moving so slowly, suspecting that perhaps it wants to be attacked. Shawn doesn't see a problem with this. He orders the release of liquid nitrogen, and the sphere begins to freeze. Moments later, a barrage of missiles is launched, but again, there is no visible effect. However, Jeff notices that the sphere has stopped moving and believes their efforts may not have been entirely useless. Realizing the sphere might be preparing to retaliate, Jeff urges Shawn to evacuate the area immediately. The captain orders the troops to fall back, but it's too late. The jets are obliterated. Jeff instructs Shawn to land the helicopter right away before they become the next target. Declaring the mission a complete failure, Shawn chooses to return to base. ATHQ. Dr. Grace reports that the vessel is targeting and destroying key infrastructure across the country. Vargas adds that Canada has offered the support of 10 additional fighter jets. Once again, President McCoy instructs his team to grant Dr. Jeff full autonomy as soon as he returns. General Vargas promptly asks Dr. Grace to release the video footage that Jeff had previously requested. As Captain Shawn and Dr. Jeff make their way back to the base, Jeff expresses his reluctance to return to the field, stating that something is still eluding them, something they haven't yet managed to grasp. He remains deeply intrigued by the anomaly at the power plant. Jeff requests that Shawn secure the site's security footage, to which the captain agrees. Meanwhile, Jeff contacts Dr. Kate to check if her team has made any breakthroughs. She replies that nothing unusual has been reported, but Jeff presses her with questions. Eventually, she mentions the Rubicon theory, suggesting that various clues are aligning and that this may have been an effort at communication. Shortly thereafter, Kate receives more data on her desk and confirms Jeff's hypothesis. She reveals that possible alien life forms are orbiting near Jupiter, accompanied by 10 additional spheres similar to the one that entered Earth. This intel is quickly relayed to the presidential advisors. Dr. Grace elaborates that the initial sphere originated from the same rapid burst Jeff had previously detected, then displays an image to the president, showing the 10 spheres clustered together near Jupiter, seemingly preparing to strike. She adds that Jeff and Kate believe these aren't merely objects but an organized alien fleet ready to initiate a full-scale planetary invasion. President McCoy then calls in Captain Shawn and Jeff, asking if the doctor has any further insight into this fleet. Jeff explains that the encountered sphere appears to be a scouting probe meant to analyze Earth's defensive capabilities. He warns that unless swift action is taken, humanity faces total annihilation. The president responds that the next operation must be definitive and orders Jeff and Shawn to return to base immediately to design a new strategic response. Jeff expresses hesitation, stating he can't leave without his children since they are in the direct path of the sphere. Captain Shawn personally assures him that he will retrieve the kids, convincing Jeff to join the team in Washington. Meanwhile, both Lest and Vargas suggest that the president relocate to a secure area. Vargas informs them that Shawn is already en route to get Jeff's children. When McCoy asks how long they have until the alien craft reaches the capital, Vargas estimates just under an hour. Suspicious of the timing, the president listens as Jeff begins laying out a new theory. He notes that the sphere easily demolished buildings like paper, but something different occurred when it passed the power plant. Jeff presents an image to the team, pointing out that the vessel is protected by a force field, but it doesn't remain active at all times. General Vargas adds that the shield likely requires immense energy to sustain, which could explain intermittent vulnerability during recharging phases. Jeff plays segments of the footage, highlighting the precise moments when the force field activates and deactivates, explaining that the shield is only triggered in response to perceived threats. He proposes luring the vessel into a fortified underground bunker, then striking it at full capacity when the shield is down. Jeff also notes that the site is equipped with EMP generators capable of overloading and disrupting the vessel's protective barrier. Vargas outlines the remainder of the plan to President McCoy, explaining that they will unleash high-intensity electromagnetic pulses aimed at disabling the shield. When asked about expected casualties, Vargas estimates that up to 80% of the deployed troops could be lost. The president then turns to Jeff and asks if he is certain about this strategy. Jeff admits that while he isn't entirely confident, there are no viable alternatives left. Vargas proceeds to order the EMP strike. As the alien sphere nears the White House, the initial blasts begin to destabilize its structural integrity. Jeff urges the team to increase the intensity of the electromagnetic field, and the craft starts to lose elevation, ultimately crashing into the presidential bunker. In the control room, the team struggles to determine if the operation was successful due to dense smoke and the loss of communication with Captain Shawn. McCoy commands them to press on with the attacks, prompting more detonations inside the bunker as Vargas attempts to re-establish contact with Shawn. At that critical moment, the alien sphere transmits a signal directly to the fleet station beyond Earth's atmosphere. Meanwhile, President McCoy delivers a heartfelt tribute to the fallen soldiers. Soon after, Vargas receives a communique from Russia reporting unusual readings, and Lester adds that China has confirmed the atmospheric entry of 10 additional alien spheres. Multiple vessels are then seen advancing toward Earth in formation, and Jeff realizes that the red flash previously recorded was actually a distress signal calling for reinforcements. President McCoy instructs Lester to immediately alert global leaders that electromagnetic blasts are currently the only known effective countermeasure. As the new spheres initiate their assault, Lester recommends immediate evacuation, but McCoy refuses to abandon his post, declaring his intent to fight to the very end. Despite his urging, none of his staff leave, each choosing to stay and defend the planet. Lester then brings up a satellite equipped with an untested high-powered laser weapon, and Jeff agrees that it could be their best hope. With the world under siege, McCoy declares they must act as Earth's final defense. General Vargas tasks Captain Shawn with one last mission. Jeff is visibly relieved to hear that Shawn is still alive. While Vargas authorizes distraction-based strikes to slow the sphere's progress, Lester reminds everyone that the satellite weapon has never been tested. He cautions that failure might only reveal their position, then asks the president whether he still wants to proceed. McCoy affirms the order. Jeff radios Shawn, instructing him to carry out remaining EMP strikes to stall the alien fleet until the satellite can be readied. Shawn and his team launch an assault but report no results. With grim determination, Shawn announces that he's prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for humanity and asks Jeff to look after his children. Finally, the satellite powers up and unleashes a devastating beam that hits the alien sphere, causing a massive shockwave. The vessel opens, releasing numerous alien entities, but before they can escape, another blast from the satellite vaporizes the creatures along with all remaining enemy craft. Several hours later, Jeff wakes up in a hospital, wounded but alive. His children visit, joyfully updating him on their victory. When asked about Captain Shawn, Jeff solemnly calls him a true hero. President McCoy then arrives to congratulate Jeff, affirming that his Rubicon theory had been correct and confirming that the surviving invaders have retreated. He offers Jeff a position on the International Defense Council, but Jeff declines, choosing instead to live peacefully with his family. Just then, to everyone's astonishment, Captain Shawn enters the room, having survived the mission. In closing, the president thanks Autumn for identifying the sphere and extends a job offer to the entire family.